proud mother of 5 girls and 1 boy. So when I gave birth to my son 3 years ago, so pretty soon after that, mothers of boys started asking me, so have you noticed the difference yet between boys and girls? Sort of with this knowing sort of look. And for years, I was telling those mothers, you know, when my son Yoel, when he turned a year, when he turned 2 years, I was saying, no, I don't notice any difference. No difference, don't notice any difference. So that all changed a few months ago when my son Yoel, when he started cheder. So Yoel now, he spends every morning with a group of boys, with like 19 other little boys, 3-year-old boys. And Yoel, from the very first week in cheder, he became a boy. He became a real classic boy. And all of a sudden, I was able to understand what all those mothers were sort of looking at me knowingly about. The transition for me from raising, you know, girls to raising a boy has been a tough one for me. I have to say it's given me a really, really newfound respect for all of you moms out there who are mothers of boys. It really is, I think, at least from my own personal experience, a whole different kettle of fish, raising a boy. And for me, it has not been, as I said, such an easy transition. So, to give you an example of my life as a mother of a really boy, the other day, I took my kids to the market. I take my kids to the market in the afternoons like several times a week because I live right next to the Jerusalem market. So I took the kids to the market, and always at the end of our like little of our shopping trip together, I always say, you know, whoever is good is going to get a cookie. And the truth is, my kids always get a cookie. I'm always able to sort of get them, and always with sort of like the promise of a cookie, I'm always able to, even if they misbehave a little bit, I'm able to get them back into line with the promise of the cookie. But so, my little Yoel, the other day, he was, for some reason, he was acting fine, and then all of a sudden, he really started misbehaving. Really misbehaving. So, I promised him, I said, you know, you better act good, we're gonna have a cookie, we're gonna have a cookie. But it didn't help. He kept on misbehaving, and then more and more, and he just wouldn't stop. So then, we finally got to the bakery, when everyone just had the cookie, and Yoel, that day, for the first time I think in his whole life, and all the history of all our trips to the market, Yoel did not receive a cookie. And Yoel was furious. He came, the whole way home, he was screaming and begging for a cookie and screaming for a cookie and saying, Ima, 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 Ima. And it was just it was really terrible. So we got home, and then Yoel was so upset that he was hitting me and hitting the baby and hitting the children and just totally going wild. So I had to pick up the phone and call my husband and ask my husband to come home from whatever he was doing, telling him it was an emergency, I needed his help, because my husband, since he's a boy, he knows how to deal with Yoel really well, much better than me. So my husband rushed home and picked up Yoel and, you know, and took care of everything. But I told my husband, I said, you know, Josh, I have to get out of the house, and I just like left the house for like an hour, and I was just crying. I was feeling like such a loser, like such a terrible mother. Okay, good, granted, you know, I'm a good mother of girls. I'm a really good mother, I think, of girls. But a boy, I'm just thinking, you know, just kicking myself and just thinking, you know, I'm just not built for this. I'm not built to be, I'm not up to being the mother of a little boy. I just don't know how to do it. It's too hard for me. I'm a total failure. And at that point, when I was really like crying and really kicking myself really hard, I remembered something that I had heard from Rabbi Aryeh Niven of the famous personal development chaboras, which I've been telling you about quite frequently in these pep talks. So he presents an idea. This is an idea that really made me feel better when I was trying to recover from feeling so bad about Yoel. And Rabbi Niven says that of all the ideas that he presents many sort of potentially life-transforming ideas and concepts and tools to use. He says this is really one of the biggies. This is one of the biggest ways, a way to change your way of thinking that can really potentially transform your life and make it so much better. So what he says, what Rabbi Niven says, he quotes Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, who explained that we as people, we are responsible to make an effort. And God is in charge of success. Okay? So most of the time, let's say that you work on a project, and you work on it, and you do the research, and you stay up late working on it, and then in the end you get an F. Okay? So do you feel like you achieved your goal? Probably not. Probably most of us would feel like, okay, like I failed, I flunked, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to succeed. But really, if you put in your effort, if you put in an effort, you put in a reasonable effort, then you accomplished, like that, the effort is your goal, not the success. Okay? So, Rabbi Shmulevitz, he bases this on a line in the Talmud, which probably many of you are familiar with. Yagata umatzata tamim. If you worked hard and you found it, believe it. Okay, so Rabbi Shmulevitz, he explains, so he asks a question, he says, what does this mean? It should be, if you worked hard and you succeeded, vispakta vitzlachta, yagata vispakta, yagata vitzlachta. You worked hard and you succeeded, you worked hard, you made it. No, what does it say? It says, you worked hard and you found it. What does that mean? It means you worked hard and then you find the success that God gives you. That's right. Like, there's not necessarily a direct correlation between the amount of effort you put in and success, because you're in charge of the effort, and God's in charge of giving the success or not giving the success. Which means that in life, we should be deriving our self-esteem and our sense of joy and accomplishment really from the amount of effort that we put into something, and not necessarily on, and not on the successes which will come or won't come, because that's God's decision. So let's say that you're having a challenge in your life. You have a child you're having difficulties with, a marriage that you're having difficulties with, your career isn't as successful as you'd like, you're not as successful as you'd like as a mother or in other aspects of your life. But you know what? If you are putting in every day an effort, if you're putting in an effort, a decent effort, to be, a better mother, to be a better wife, to be better in your career if you have a career, to be better, as in whatever aspect of your life is important to you, if you're putting in an effort, then you have accomplished what you were supposed to accomplish. The success, whether that child's a success, whether the marriage is a success, whether the career is a success, whether you as a mother in your life are a success, it's in God's hands. The only thing you're responsible for is the effort. So just going back to my own experience, when I realized that day I had felt like a total failure because my son had started having a total tantrum and I didn't know how to deal with it. I had failed that day. But had I put in an effort? Yeah, I had tried. I had tried to be a good mother, and I had tried to encourage him with that cookie, and I had tried to, I didn't start slapping him, and I didn't start screaming at him, and I called my husband home, which for me is actually, was humiliating for me, but I put in my effort, and God decided for whatever reason that it wasn't this kind of success that I had hoped that it would be, okay? So I want to bless all of us. That through understanding and making this concept, this very, very important concept, a part of our lives, understanding that we're responsible for the effort, but not necessarily for the success. Understanding that we should derive our sense of self-esteem and our sense of joy from our effort and not from the externally visible successes. That you should be able to derive as much joy from that as I was able to derive from it this week. And bless all of you with an amazing, amazing week.